Hello, Internet. I'm me. And even if you could see me, this is a Kamen Rider and Tokumei Sentai Gobusters episode review. Yes, I'm still doing the combo thing. I kind of like the format. Anywho, these episodes, I'm going to go with actually Kamen Rider Wizard this time instead of Tokumei Sentai Gobusters this time. Going first. First off, let's get a few things out of the way. I was wrong about Tokumei Sentai Gobusters getting their hyper form or the new armored form, and I was off by about 3 episodes. So yeah, just to make this clear, next episode they're supposed to be getting their new upgraded form, and I swear to God I'm not wrong this time because I saw it on the previews at the end of the episode. This time I'm right. I know it. But back to Kamen Rider Wizard. Kamen Rider Wizard is now ended of course, its two-parting episode and did something a bit different that I did not expect. Of course, the pianist was, being an asshole for saying, "Oh, some kind of wizard you are. You couldn't even kill the Phantom, blah, 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 blah." Honestly, unlike the last episode where he was kind of irritating but seemed like he had something held back, something inside that kind of made him seem like he was a good guy but he was just in a tough situation, the actor portraying him in this episode, which is the same actor, for some reason the script kind of just makes him seem like an annoying douchebag who just whines about everything that he has. "Oh, I can play piano, but I don't want to fail, so I don't want to try. I want the Phantom to cut off my hands." I'm like, shut the hell up, dude. You can play piano just fucking fine. I mean, honestly, even if he isn't the best, I'm pretty sure you could just, ante up with a composer for movies or TV shows and he'd be fine. You don't need to be the top for that. You just have to be really good, which he is. So, I'm actually pretty happy that when this episode ended, that's actually what he comes up with. He just kind of says, "Yeah, I shouldn't have been like all whiny and bitchy. I have to live in the present. I can't just rely on all my past awards and medals for winning these piano contests and I just move on with my life because I could be much more than just a person who goes into pianist competitions and winning awards there." And I was like, yeah, usually when you're a pianist, you shouldn't use that as your fucking career. And you're probably wondering, why the heck is this guy just talking all about the pianist? Well, because unlike most of the episodes before this episode actually does focus primarily on the pianist, even though there is a couple of things about how Kayomi is a doll, and even though they don't explain how that's happened yet, they have explained, yes, she is a doll, she needs Kamen Rider Wizard's mana to survive, and pretty much the same thing I said last review, where it's like mana is the magical essence for life. And so it's just pretty much like chi, ki. It's a spiritual energy that allows magic user to use magic. And of course, Kamen Rider Wizard rests up, gets his mana back, and, pretty much kicks the Phantom's ass because the Phantom really doesn't want to fight. And I kind of love that. That the first Black Phantom, first black actor that I've seen in a Kamen Rider, except for that one guy in Forza, he doesn't count. He's actually doesn't play it up as much as a villain. He's a villain, yes. Like, he's a villain, a Phantom who wants to go out and just kill people because he doesn't give a shit. But he also is a Phantom who wants to rest, who wants to sleep. He seems a lot more human than the other Phantoms. They don't. All the other Phantoms from to this point, all three of them, have really felt like they were mustache twirling villains, but this guy actually comes off a lot more human. He gets tired. He doesn't want to always be hunting for gates and turning them into phantoms. Hell, he even at one point shirks off his responsibility completely, and once Medusa sends him on a mission, or sends him back to go turn the gate into a phantom, he pretty much just finds a high, tall place up to where it's inconspicuous so that he can go take a cat nap. No pun intended. But of course, they catch him and they, threaten him. And we actually get to see where the henchmen come from, which are like rock monster things, if you couldn't tell by the costume design. And pretty much he gets his ass kicked as usual. And with a really cool finisher by Kamen Rider Wizard showing off what the Hurricane State can do. And that's pretty much it. This whole episode honestly can be explained in a very fraction of the time that I usually watch it. Honestly, I really did like a lot about this episode. The fight choreography was good. The special effects were pretty nice, though the wire work, and I don't really like the style of how Kamen Rider Wizard flies when he's in his hurricane form, where he's pretty much flying like a top. Sure, he has a tornado encasing him, spinning him around, but I always kind of imagined if you had wind powers, you'd be like the Texas Twister. If you don't know who the Texas Twister is, go Google it. It's a Marvel comic book character from way back when. But he has pretty much the power of controlling tornadoes, or like Red Tornado from the Justice League, where he has a tornado, but it's around his waist area, and it just levitates him up. And I thought that would have been cool, but then again, this is just a new take. So I'm okay with it because it's creative, but honestly, it's not the aesthetic I would go for a wind flying power. But other than that, I have no real complaints with this episode. It was actually pretty good, except for the pianist being an annoying little douche. But then again, at the end, he did stop being an annoying little douche, so I guess I can't stay too mad at him. So, Kamen Rider Wizard gets a 8 out of 10 for me, because it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't great. Now, on to Tokimei Sentai Gobusters. This episode is, of course, the last of the two-parter of the Space Sheriff Gavin team-up with Super Sentai. And, of course, unlike the other time where we first saw Space Sheriff Gavin Henshin, this time we actually get to see the famous Gavin Dynamic, which is pretty dang simple of a move, but still pretty freaking cool with a laser blade. But also, let me get into the plot. Of course, this is after the first episode, or episode 31, where Gavin has shown up and is now actually helping with the Gobusters to go find this Rhino dude. And of course, he kind of gets caught up in pretty much the same antics that the Gobusters go through when they're at base, with all of them messing around with their buddy roids, pretty much acting like the support that they have in the base is just kind of like, they treat them more like friends than actual colleagues and co-workers, which I kind of thought was pretty cool for the Go-Busters because it made them seem a lot more human, made them seem like they appreciated their colleagues a lot more because they're treating them more like friends and not like, co-workers. It means they had a real connection with them. But other than that, pretty much Gavin sees the whole buddy-buddy love between them and their buddy roids and the colleagues, and sees that it's more of them clowning around and saying that, sure, the Go-Busters might be capable fighters, but for actually getting stuff done and taking initiative, they almost seem childlike and not very up to the task. And they even do bring up a good point that last time Space Sheriff Gavin just pretty much came in and saved the Go-Busters with little to no help from the other Go-Busters. So he could just easily do it again. And of course, after that, they all get a sound alarm and go out and face down with the Rhino dude again. And then Beaten, just pretty much the fight scene is very short, but it does show off the fact that Beaten Stagbusters still do act like, friends. They don't act like actual colleagues or soldiers, showing that Space Sheriff Gavin can't really take anybody on the Go-Busters team seriously. So after the fight with the Rhino dude, they lose, pretty much. Not really lose. Beaten Stagbuster actually caused the fight to escalate, more likely giving the chance for the Rhino dude to get away. And of course, this is the point where everybody in the Go-Buster support team is kind of like, after overhearing Gavin whine about how the Go Busters are really childish and just too friendly with their coworkers, maybe they are just too childish to take on anything serious beyond anything that comes from hyperspace. So but then they decide, you know what? Fuck this. We'll go and show Gavin, and they actually take some research data to the interdimensional research facility, which I actually am pretty impressed that they have in this show, showing that yeah, because of hyperspace, they've developed a research facility for interdimensional travel. That, and you can actually say that this is also in the canon of Go Ojan, where they've also gone through interdimensional travel as well. So you have an actual base that studies this as a science, which could actually open itself up a lot more to a lot of different options in varying series or spin-offs. Honestly, it's a fan's dream, but still, it was a nice add-in. So they actually go to the interdimensional research facility and start coming up with a way for the Go Busters, if they ever go back into Maku space, they actually will be able to transport weapons or call them home base. And while they're actually devising up these plans, the Rhino is actually found by Enter, who gives him a pretty much an alliance, and the Rhino sends all those in the research facility into Maku space, entrapping them there so that they can't finish their work, even though one of the Go Busters guys actually just grabs his laptop before they get sent. Which I question how he gets any signal inside Maku space whenever, like, if you just walk outside or walk into a building, depending, you lose cell phone coverage. Anyway, of course, the Go Busters have actually started to notice that certain scientists have been going missing in certain areas, and the Rhino pretty much wants to just kidnap all the scientists and smart people to leave dumb people everywhere so that they can take over the world. And I'm just like, okay, that's kind of stupid. Enter's just like along for the ride, but I'm just like, are you sure you're supposed to be fighting Gavin? Gotta be a bit smarter for that one. But of course, the Go Busters all go into Maku space, again, courtesy of the Rhino doing that whole switch thing. And so does Gavin. But this time, when they actually try to fight the Rhino inside Maku space, turns out the Rhino, who's inherent to Maku space, actually turns 3 times as strong once he's in that area. So it will take the Go Busters to actually have their weapons and Gavin to punch the guy a lot harder for them to actually do any damage to the guy. But because the research isn't done yet, the Go Busters can't transport their weapons inside Maku space. It's a completely other dimension, though separate from hyperspace. And somehow, Enter is also able to actually enter in and out of Maku space at will through the whole like digital fade wipe that he does, which brings up a lot of good questions that are also brought up by the Go Busters on how the heck is Enter able to disappear out of Maku space and seemingly back into hyperspace, which is probably going to bring up a lot of questions, and I hope that they will be answered later on. So, after a huge fight and Indiana Jones Rock chasing Buster Yellow and Blue, even though it turns out Blue Buster's just like, oh yeah, I'm super strong, and just breaks the rock. They find the scientists, release them, and the scientists finish up their research, giving the Go Busters access to their transport system into Maku space and communications. With their weapons, the Go Busters and Gavin both take out the Rhino dude, and they end up back on Earth. When Enter actually gives the metavirus to the Rhino dude, turning him into a giant monster, and he does the switch, which not only fuses Maku space with hyperspace, but then does that whole dome thing around the city. So, the Go Busters get into the Great King Go Buster, or Go Buster, and get inside and start to fight, but they quickly get their asses kicked, and Gavin has to come in and save them again with the awesomeness of the freaking spaceship dragon. I know I saw it during Kaisoku Sentai versus Gavin, but still, A giant spaceship that turns into a robot dragon. Always cool. Um, of course, he comes in, uses the fire, and pretty much just distracts the Rhino as the Go-Busters finish off the Rhino with a dimensional thrust. And then after the battle, Gavin leaves, having a new respect for the Go-Busters and actually wishing them well on their journey. This episode was actually pretty good. I actually liked it a lot. This is a good 9 out of 10. Solid action, solid acting. And in this one, Gavin seemed a lot more heroic and more together in this episode. Because in the last episode, he kind of seemed more of a loose cannon, wild cop, the kind of character that would fit in with the Go Busters. But this one made him seem like he's a more responsible and mission-oriented person. And that actually brought up a very good contrast to the Go Busters and actually made for a better story. I like the fact that the Go Busters team actually does take offense to the fact that they act kind of childish, but also don't apologize for it, showing that they will actually go to lengths to show that they are worth working with and that they will go into the above and beyond the Call of Duty to actually get things done. This episode actually brought a lot of good insight into characters and didn't feel like a filler crossover either. It actually showed some good character development, showed us how the Go Buster team works, and also introduced Gavin into the kids who don't know who Space Sheriff Gavin is or the other metal heroes. And just in time for the Space Sheriff Gavin movie and hopefully in a couple of months or so, the Space Sheriff Gavin TV show, or Metal Heroes. And so, that concludes my review for everything like that. Links in the description box, if I can find them. Until next time, y'all, peace.